Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time. Welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? If we can. My camera is making this look much more blue than it is. This is usually much more vibrant, purple, genuine purple, or violet. What is the distinction? Anyways, today's ink is by Diamine, here in sample form, by the name of Violet. Is it violet? Is it purple? I don't know. Two pens I used were these. This is a Pilot Metropolitan with a Japanese medium nib, so much more like a Western fine. And also this Kaweco Ice Sport thing. And this one, come on camera, has a double broad nib. So it'll definitely give us some contrast. Now, I wanted to give you a couple comparisons, so let's check those out. Here is Diamine's Violet, and here, surprisingly similar, is, I am going to butcher this, it's Ackerman number 14, Popo. Yes, I apologize. Next is a Private Reserve ink. This is Purple Mojo, which is maybe a little bit darker, but actually kind of similar. I feel like if I added just a tiny bit of water to that, it'd be quite similar. Next up is Diamine's Lavender. See, maybe it's a tiny bit lighter, tiny bit more pink. And lastly, Rhodia und Klingas Cassia? Yep, actually fairly similar. Yeah, so kind of nice having so many inks that were actually kind of close. Usually I ended up having to pull one that is just absolutely not close at all. Anyways, chromatography. Bear with me. Now, this one on the left with this little D up in the corner, that is the one that I let dry, which is not how you're supposed to do it, but at least I only give it 8 to 10 minutes to dry. So, yeah, the one on the right is the one that I did the way you're supposed to, where you put the line of ink and then essentially instantly drop it in the water. Now, you can definitely tell where that line of ink was. There's still a fair bit of color going upwards. It is a bit lighter. And then up at the top it gets a bit darker, and I don't know if the camera's going to show this because of the weird color adjustment it's doing. But here, and here are some very distinct little areas of blue. Now the one that I let dry, the line is a bit darker. I'd say there's, like here there's some light and a good bit of dark. Here there's a lot of light, and it is a little bit more dark, and we don't have those areas of blue. Now I'm going to bring it in close so maybe it'll let you see the blue. Do you see that? Here, 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 and here. Where's the shot? Now, chemical tests, for lack of a better word. Water test, it really got it moving. Now bear in mind this was only given like maybe 20 minutes to dry, so Bleach test, the 1/3 bleach solution, you might be able to tell it actually turned it a slightly lighter blue before erasing it from existence. Ammonia pen flash actually was quite similar to water, except it started to affect the paper a good bit more, which makes sense because it's ammonia pen flash. Hydrogen peroxide got stuff moving, but oddly it didn't get it moving quite as much as water. So it seems like some of it actually kind of really sunk in. So, yeah. Fascinating. Now, paper test. Top-down density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Yep. It's purple. And it is a intense, vibrant purple. It is certainly eye-catching. It only has a tiny bit of kind of a dustiness to it, but really not much. It is quite wet-flowing. I'd say it was a 7 out of 10. It quite surprised me. If we look at this Japanese medium here, that is quite a smear. And that double broad went clear off the page. The Japanese medium took 17 seconds to dry in here. The double broad took 36. I usually stop counting at 30, but considering it's a double broad, I figured I knew what I was getting myself into. Now, we do have some shading, which is rather nice if you're like me and you like that sort of thing. Now, if we look at the double broad, you might be able to tell in especially the 5 and part of boxing, there's a dark outline around the wettest parts. which I like because I think it increases contrast and sort of makes it easier to see. Although here that's not vital because it's not a light or undersaturated ink. There is some very bold color going on, that's for sure. Now, it's quite well behaved. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen, but we'll get there. Now, water test. First of all, I'd like to say that Diamine inks are really not known for their water resistance. This certainly isn't touted as having water resistance, so I was actually surprised to see this much remain. It did dye the page a little bit, it did get lighter, it did sort of start to woolify, but yeah, I was not expecting to see that much, especially given the chromatography, but Next up is Fabriano Echo Qua. It's an 85 gram per square meter paper. I love this stuff. It's totally chlorine free. It's, you know, the forest something or other certified yada yada yada. I don't know. It's quite nice. And here, I really hope, there we go. Kind of ish. Do you see that? We get the tiniest little hints of sheen in the wettest parts. And actually we get it in the outline of the wettest parts. So we especially see it in the outline of that double broad. The thing is, the line is quite fine, and I don't think I'll be able to get it on camera. Well, you can kind of see it a little bit. But anyways, I thought that was an interesting effect. As you can see, we get lovely shading, and it is a bright, intense color of purple. Now, the Japanese medium took 15 seconds to dry, and when I was smearing this, I also managed to smear that. But yeah, the double broad took 33, and just look at the size of that smear. That's more than 3 boxes. Yeah, it's intense. We do get a nice halo effect around the wettest parts, so especially in that double broad, because, I mean, honestly, this is a quite wet flowing ink, but then putting it in a double broad, it's just, you're definitely going to get that halo. Now, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo. You get a tiny little bit of sheen. And, again, I wasn't expecting quite this much water resistance, but we got some. It did dye the page, and there's not a lot remaining. It is very light, but I also want to bring this in to show you something. Do you see how the dark outline that we see on that double broad, that is really what remained here? I don't think I've ever seen that before, but it so surprised me. I just wanted to draw attention to it, so I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I got no explanation, I just thought it was cool. Now, next up is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. I feel like everyone knows this stuff. It's pretty awesome. Now, that Japanese medium took 16 seconds to dry, the double broad took 34, and this time it smeared across 4 boxes and more because it went right off the page. Yeah, again, bright, intense color. We do have some lovely shading. We, again, have that dark outline around the wettest parts, especially in the double broad. It is flying out of this nib, and this is a very nicely saturated ink. So the wet flow, the good saturation, and the premium paper, yes, we're going to have some longer dry times. But honestly, it's not out of the realm of normal at this point. So just wanted to point that out. And again, we do have a tiny bit of that halo sheeniness. Kind of a gold sheen thing going on. Not a ton, but a little. And again, quite well behaved. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo. All good in that regard. That was me. When I was doing the crisscrossy things, the nib caught the bottom of the paper and flipped it up. And so I actually ended up writing on the back by accident. That is not bleed through. That is just me being a klutz. Now again, water test. I was not expecting this much to remain, but it did kind of, what I thought was weird was, you see how the E is almost all gone? And then the E and S, that was a bit odd. But anyways, it did dye the page a little bit. It did get a lot lighter. A lot of it did want to let go. That double broad, I think, was just putting down such a sheer volume of ink that there was more to wash away and more to remain. So, Next up is Tomoe River paper. It is known for drawing out shading and sheen and dry times and echo, and we kind of get all of that. Okay. Yeah. If you can't see that sheen, then yeah. And actually, it's in the outline of the wettest part, so you definitely have it in the double broad. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that on camera. Oh, you can kind of see it in Wizards. But yeah, it's an interesting effect. Yeah, we definitely got drawn out dry times. But, I mean, it makes sense. This is a very wet flowing ink. It is decently saturated. And this paper is just designed not to absorb things. So, yeah, logic. You know, it's a thing. It happens. Now, that Japanese medium took 23 seconds. The double broad took 47. But again, I just want to show you the sheer density of this color. It is well saturated. Oh, you can really see the halo effect in the 47 seconds. But yeah, we do get some lovely shading in the writing. Just want to bring this in so you can see it. And we do get that shading in the medium as well. It's just harder to get on camera because it's a finer line. But yeah, so if you like shading, this is definitely... Now, I say here, it actually reminds me of the lilacs that grew outside of one of the lecture halls where I went to college, and since I'm so sensitive to smells, they actually gave me migraines, so it's not the best color association, but yeah, it's really, honestly, I hope I don't have to futz with the color too much in post, because I don't want to mess this up, because this is such an intensely bright color. I mean, it's almost Bay State Concord grape, but less ocular assault. Yeah. But yeah, it's quite well behaved. No bleed, no feather, no spread. It's Tomoe River. However, we do get a little bit of echo, but I feel like that's kind of predictable. This is an extremely thin paper. It's almost half the density of Clairefontaine. I was using a double broad. It is wet flowing. We are getting a dark halo effect. So if you're super sensitive to it, maybe keep that in mind. However, I feel like it's mostly the scrubbies. But yeah, it's always to taste. So it's up to you. Now, Tomoe River loves to let ink slide away when you add more water. It didn't. A lot of it is gone. It is extremely light. It did dye the page, however, and once again I'm going to bring this in. Look at the bottom one. Once again, we get kind of hints of that dark halo remaining as well, which I thought was interesting. Now, would this be the easiest thing in the world to recover? No, it wouldn't, because, I mean, especially that Japanese medium, it is quite light. So, but, I mean, if you were absolutely desperate, there would be something there. And something is usually better than nothing. Now, for the next three papers, which are economically produced, I only use that Japanese medium sort of to be more fair, except to write the name. And this is the world's worst paper, probably, but definitely the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. It is just utter trash. I can pretty much guarantee you have something at least a step up from this. Now, we have spread. If we look at the line width side by side, you can tell that there's definitely some lateral increase. And as you may notice, we've lost like 95% of the shading. However, and I hope this comes through again, this is still an intensely bright color. A lot of times more absorbent papers like this, they can almost rob an ink of its vibrancy. This one definitely doesn't. It is still a very intense purple. Took 2.5 seconds to dry. We do get some woolliness. You can't kind of see the texture of the paper. And we do get feathering. So it is not the best performance. I'm not going to say that it is. We do get a good bit of show through. You can see stuff on the other side. However, I mean, if we bring this in, with the exception of the scrubby mostly, nothing really gets so dark that you kind of have to worry about what's going to happen to the page below. Which, yeah, as I say here, spots of bleed. So, does it get all the way to the other side? Yes. Does it get onto the page below? No. And that's actually not bad considering the sheer wetness of this flow of ink and the absorbency of the paper. Could have been a lot worse. Now, water test. This paper can freak out when you add water, and actually it has completely changed the shape of the paper. I don't know if that'll come through, but yeah, it has done weird things. However, if we look at this, now more absorbent papers tend to draw the ink in, not want to let it wash out. And that's definitely what happened here. you can see that it's still quite dark, especially compared to all of the other tests that we've seen. And actually, it's more well-behaved than I was expecting. You do see some is trying to wash away. You do see it is feathering a little bit. However, we've seen much, much worse. If you had to recover that, I think you could. Now, next up is Mead Notebook Paper. It's very common for school children in the United States. This kind is the kind you'd find in a spiral notebook, not the kind you'd find in like a composition book. This stuff lately has been feathering like crazy. However, I would like to point out, come here, get back here, that we don't have nearly as much spread as we do on the 20 pound, which is rather nice. So at least there's that. However, as you probably saw there, we do have feathering. But that is something that this paper just seems especially susceptible to. Maybe it's something that my paper in particular has just a penchant for. However, that may not be the case. Here it took 5 seconds to dry, and again we lost pretty much all of the shading. However, the intensity of color absolutely remains. This is an extremely vibrant purple ink, so if that's something you're looking for, yeah, we do get show through. Again, because this paper is physically thinner than 20 pound, so it's sinking in. I don't know if it's coming out the back. It definitely doesn't look like it is, because even here where it's darkest, when I bring it in, you see how it's still very opaque? So that means it definitely sunk fully into the paper, but it's not yet reached the other side, and it is definitely not coming out the back, and it's definitely not reaching the page below. So there's that. It's not going to ruin that page and the one after it. Now this paper can really freak out when you add water, and physically it did. However, we've seen it feather and explode and look like nightmare cactus monsters. This was much more well-behaved than I was expecting. I mean, if we look at this side by side, it barely got lighter at all. It didn't feather or explode. That would absolutely be recoverable. I mean, look, it barely even dyed the page. On camera, you can't even see it at all. In fact, as well as it did on 20 pound, I think Mead might have even had a better water test. I hope it goes without saying that that was not what I was expecting. But then, pretty much exactly what I was expecting. We get Moleskine. Do I even have to bring this any closer? You can see this, right? Yeah, I hate this stuff. And we can pay a lot of money for something that is very poorly produced. It took 7 seconds to dry. You can see the pattern of the pulp that they mashed into paper. There is an intense, ugly feathering and hideous woolliness. There is a ton of show through. Now, yes, that is the double broad, but all of this isn't. It got onto the page below. So yes, it ruined the front, it ruined the back, and it ruined the next page. And despite Mead paper, and this stuff is not great, you can get, you know, like, what is it, 200 sheets of this to like fill a 3-ring binder for what, $2? A notebook this size costs $11, and it did this. Look at this water test. Look at the Mead water test. Okay, I'm going to bring this in as close as I can while the camera can still focus. Do you see how the ink that was lifted off, when I then dabbed it up, it reabsorbed, and you can see the little bits of paper, how it dyed the little bits of paper? It's hideous. I mean, it like woolified the whole thing. It feathered, it exploded, it's becoming a furry cactus monster nightmare. That would not be easy to recover. What the heck, Moleskine? I hate you. Anyways, so there you go for your consideration. Diamine's, wait, yeah, violet. Sorry, for a second I thought it was lavender. This is what happens when swatches. Anyways, Diamine Violet. It's an extremely bright, intense, vibrant ink. If you do not have easy access to Ackerman, they are very similar. So if you were interested in Park Pop Purple, sorry, massacred that again, maybe check out Violet. They're similar in color. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if they're similar in performance, but honestly, it actually did fairly well on cheap papers, especially in water resistance. yeah. Anyways, so there you go. For your consideration from the Triple One Network. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.